Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. Happy Sunday. A little bit of an informal astrology report today. I'm pet sitting right now. There's my buddy Dudley right there. Dudley has no eyes. He's very old. He's got a likely terminal illness, and for whatever reason, these animals are by far the ones I feel the most connected to. So it's kind of my specialty, is watching elder dogs who need a lot of care. Must be the Syrian starseed part of me. So let's talk about some astrology, and I could talk about Dudley all day. So this report is going to be for the fourth lunar quarter, the last lunar quarter of this new moon cycle that started in Aquarius, and a lot of stuff is breaking loose, and there has been a lot of pressure release from different corners of the world right now, and going into this week is a lot of Neptunian aspects as the moon moves through Capricorn and Aquarius into Pisces, and then we have a Pisces new moon on the 13th. And this image up here, for as beautiful as it is in and of itself, is actually quite symbolic and very representative of the Pisces new moon, about the interdependence of living together on an island, right, and surrounding by the vastness of the ocean. We are going to really discover, with this new moon and this next lunar cycle, is an opportunity to really discover our Dharma. And we don't have a lot of time before the spring equinox hits and we get to 0 degrees Aries of the sun. And so it's really important that we are allowing ourselves the space to set the intention of discovering our Dharma, learning to live interdependently, because on an island here, you're with who you're with. And I think a really good representation of this is actually right here with Gilligan's Island. You could deconstruct, I'm sure people have done it. You could deconstruct Gilligan's Island into an archetypal thesis. And if you notice in this picture, Gilligan is not there. But this concept represents really well what this new moon is really representing. And I will read the Sabian Symbol so you can really see where I'm getting this imagery from. We all have a part to play, and we all have our unique signature that we bring to the table. And the shift from Aquarius into Pisces, as we are in the middle of, with a Sun and Venus in Pisces, but then also Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Pallas Athena, asteroid Pallas Athena, they're all in Aquarius still. And so there is this transition happening right now from the network that allows the signal, right? The connection to each other, that allows for a knowing, then moves into Pisces, which is the network itself, the ocean of the collective unconscious, the field of potential, the wave function that electrons live in throughout the whole universe. And this really gets into the quantum realm. Pisces is also the realm of dreams, inspiration, direct connection to God or divine source. It's also the realm of psychosis, addiction, propaganda, because you don't know where you end or begin. And the victim martyr aspect is just as much of the Pisces archetype as the Christ consciousness, because there is no separation from you and everything else in Pisces. We're all part of the same source. And so when you do not have a clear sense of who you are, when we come into Pisces time, or if you have, especially with Neptune in Pisces right now, the great dissolver is just everything that comes in contact with Neptune right now, and any of these transits, is just going to be dissolved down in some way. And it's either going to be a challenge or it's going to be really helpful, depending on what's going on. The sun is going to meet Pisces this week, okay? The sun is going to meet Neptune this week, okay? This is an opportunity for incredible inspiration, like divine inspiration, right? Your intuitiveness increases, your psychic abilities increase. Like, you're really identifying yourself through this Christ consciousness where we're all connected, and you know, are feeling it. And inspiration is really high potential this week. Equally, the potential to be led by false light and false prophets, because everything gets dissolved into the ocean, right? Everything is everything else. There's such a strong potential to be just as easily pulled into someone else's version of reality, because it's when you're under the water, you can't see clearly. And so you have to cultivate other senses. So that's just the Pisces archetype in general, and we're moving into a much more experiential as opposed to a mental and logical experience of the collective. And this and the Sun and Venus over the last few weeks have really been supporting this transition. It's almost as if it's almost as if it's like a scout in some weird way, just kind of dipping your feet into the ocean and really feeling it. Venus is very sensitive to the world around her. And so our physical senses are really part of the Venus archetype. And so there has been a lot of love and inspiration, and you can feel people on some level softening, other people getting kind of psychotic. And also delusional. That's also a big part of the Pisces archetype. So, but the reality is that cycle does end, and we come into Aries. And just like Gilligan's Island here, every person plays their role, even if they're trying to get off the island. But the symbol represents that people want to be there, and they have the means to actually travel off of the island when they all work together. Of course, there's no show if they ever actually get off the island. So that's why they never did until the very, very end. Where's Gilligan? It's supposed to be his island, and he's not even here. Anyway. So let's look at the chart and go through this and see, so we can have some insight into what to expect as we go through this process. All right, there we go. So here's Friday, the third quarter square. We already talked about this. The sun being the focal point here in this T-square with the moon's nodes, which is really driving our, the nodes specifically driving our soul's evolution, just like the dragon. Wow. It can be kind of obsessive. And then to have the moon right on top of the south node, I think that, I talked a lot about this already. The way to balance out this desire to exteriorize our discoveries and to express ourselves passionately about a new felt experience, which is where we're headed. And the flip side of that is that there is, you just follow the easiest meal psychically, right? A transference of an abstraction that somebody that is part of a collective understanding. The moon on top of that place certainly made us want to kind of pull back into that place of just like, oh, I understand reality based on the collective reality that I'm part of. And it's part of the melting pot that Sagittarius represents, because it's, again, collective values. The way to temper and balance that out was through the sun in Pisces, about just, instead of using your mind and trying to understand everything, allow yourself to identify with universal source, to surrender to the flow, honestly, to allow yourself to be inspired through quiet reflection. That really helped temper, for me personally, I can say that it really helped temper a lot of what over the weekend has been, up until the moon coming into Capricorn, has been, moon in Sagittarius. It's just been very uplifting, but also a lot of big ideas coming in, a lot of downloads coming in. I mean, it might just be me, but a lot of downloads coming in, a lot of big ideas that need to be unpacked, and a lot of trying to understand things through the process of our intuition has been really strong, and I think has really kept our minds very active. So now, and that was Friday. Saturday, the moon moves through Sagittarius, and then by today is now in Capricorn, and that is kind of a nice feeling, at least for me. It's, I have Capricorn is my 12th house, so dreams, I mean, for me, the dreams have just been off the chart in terms of understanding them. Languages I don't understand, concepts that are really foreign to me, but also familiar faces and familiar settings that are attempting to bridge that gap between what I know and new information. But it's, connecting to a collective mindset, and that's been it's been interesting. But at the very least, it has allowed us emotionally to kind of hone in on what we want to do, get kind of focused emotionally, get grounded with Capricorn, maybe take things a little bit more, be more goal oriented about where our attention is going, and really taking it out of the mind back into the body, and the use of resources, really. We may have come to some big conclusions with, because it is about big conclusions with Sagittarius, the big truths, and then come into a place where like, okay, well, it's time to make that into something. What do we do with that? So that's helping ground things a lot. So as we come into tomorrow, here we go. Now this is going to be Monday. So now we're going to really talk about what's happening, because we have the moon is going to meet Pluto, right? And so right there, we're starting to get a sense of, very deeply understanding that the old way of getting to the top of the mountain is not available and will continue to be destroyed at every turn. So becoming very emotionally aware of that, and realizing that if we can work together, but also discipline ourselves, be open to letting the transmission of information come, then it's going to come through a sense of self-discipline. And that is a very Virgo thing, but in Capricorn, it's about the collective being disciplined and focused. If we can allow ourselves to be emotionally focused and looking at what we are creating together, it will support our ability to continue to be inspired. That's really what's coming out of it. And then this is Monday, and then we also, because that's a sextile from a Capricorn moon to a Pisces sun, and then also a sextile to Neptune and Pisces. So the same basic idea. If we're allowing ourselves to be focused and goal-oriented and grounded with our emotions, and really I don't want to say like blinders on, but if you think of the mountain goat, it is a creature that has a very narrow pathway to move up the mountain. And especially when we know that Pluto is basically eradicating all of the old pathways so that we have to form new ones, we will need this inspiration. And so as long as we are feeling confident emotionally and intuitively, we will be able to get this inspiration. We'll be open to it. To get a sense of how, to create something new. I mean, that's the thing about Pisces. We are consolidating everything that we've learned and everything that we've experienced through the whole cycle, and we're getting ready to come back into a new cycle with Aries. And so right now it's about consolidating that experience and being inspired as we move forward. So when we move into Tuesday the 9th, the moon will have moved into Aquarius at this point. And so we're going to start making connections to Jupiter, to Mercury. And this is also the day that the sun is going to meet Neptune, 21 degrees Neptune, right? We're at a position now where it's about the tactile sensation of what's to come, a very innocent and hopeful awareness of what's coming, but in a way that we're not using our minds, we're not using any other sense, but really like just a very innocent. It's like a little kid petting something, like a little lamb or something, right? It's very innocent and it's very pure, and there's a sense of trust there, and it's just like, oh, the white lamb, everything feels good, everything's gonna be okay. This is a harbinger of what we are developing. but it's all experiential, and you have to trust it to a certain extent, because you have to be like a little child petting a little lamb. I mean, that is some real vulnerability there, but a trust. And so when the sun meets Neptune at this place, it is dissolving all of our identity into this into this one symbolic representation. Can we do it? Can we completely become like a child petting a little white lamb and being very innocent and vulnerable and trusting, and knowing that there is more to it than just that? We're not just going to be left adrift if we if we step outside of our mind and especially the Aquarian energy, because that's where the moon will be, is in Aquarius. It's going to be Jupiter, it's going to be Saturn, it's going to meet Mercury, and we're really going to be very mentally stimulated still about where we're headed and the future and the collective. Are we going to be able to lose our identity, strip it away, dissolve it away by Neptune, and be like that little child? Because and can we do that without losing our, Aquarius only works when everybody is a Leo in the fullness, right? It's the opposition of Aquarius. You have to find your individual voice and expression, and that's the highest version of Aquarius. So there's going to be a lot of personal recognition and connection to all of this, while at the same time, again, our identity is going to be completely dissolved down, and we're going to have to just trust as a child trusts. So this could go in a number of different ways. This is what day? The March 9th. It's Tuesday. And along with that, that was Wednesday, my bad. So along Tuesday is when Venus squares the nodes. My bad. I'm getting ahead of myself. Well, now I don't have to talk about the sun conjunct Neptune, because now you know what to expect. Venus in Pisces is in a square, right at the same place that the sun was in the square to the node. So so it's another T square. You don't see it on the chart, but it is a T square with the south and north node of the moon and Venus. So now that that inspiration comes into a much more tactile, this is Tuesday, on a much more tactile, much more relationship based, much more sensitive to it, that square. And so we are going to find that inspiration in the material world, in our relationships. We will have to, maybe find some actual silence out in nature in order to really pull this in. Maybe we will create something beautiful as a result of this tension here, that our quiet and our quiet zone will allow us to create something that will allow us to express where we're at here with the nodes, because this north node is very powerful and it pulls us in a direction. And this degree is very much about a passionate expression. So we can really harness this with Venus, because she wants to create actual like pieces of art and music and things that are beautiful. So we can also be inspired to create something with this square. So we move on to then Wednesday, and that is when the sun and Neptune meet each other. And the moon is still in Aquarius, is going to meet Mercury as well. So I already talked about that, so are we going to be able to let ourselves go at that point? And the day before with Venus, we could create some space, we could create some situation, we could be inspired to create something that then we totally give ourselves to when the sun and Neptune meet, because our identity becomes completely dissolved into the inspiring moment. And so maybe there is some way to channel that that we will discover early in the week. So Thursday, the moon moves into Pisces at this point, and then we are preparing for, we're going to start preparing for the new moon. So now that it's getting Thursday and Friday, the moon is in Pisces, getting into its balsamic phase. So this is where you really can get lost with a dark moon in Pisces, because for as much as this beautiful, empathic, so empathic with the moon in Pisces, wow, you feel everything. But when it's dark, you don't, you're not as aware of, it's really in your subconscious. That's what I'm trying to say. And so it's going to square Mars on Thursday, Mars in Gemini. That's like, well, my ideas are really starting to like come up and out, right? You're really starting to put some confidence and some ambition behind expressing ourselves, communicating, engaging with information and knowledge. That's what Gemini is like being able to cross the barrier with ideas that still early Gemini, though. We still haven't hit the Orion aspect quite yet. So when that happens, when Mars hits about 11 degrees Gemini, that's when I think that we're really going to get into some debate mode and very fiery exchanges. But for now, the moon is squared to Mars. And are we going to, again, everything can be a holy thing at this point, and we really are going to feel that. But at the same time, wow, we're going to also Mars is going to be demanding action. So by Thursday, we're really going to start feeling the tension there between just being completely empathic and completely dissolved into everybody else's feelings with this moon in Pisces. And then Mars in Gemini is ready to again is starting to understand that for every idea there's a counter idea, and that is the Gemini aspect, and demanding a balance. So there's gonna be that tension on that day, on Thursday. Friday, the moon is in Pisces, but is going to meet Venus, and it's going to be in a sextile to Uranus, which is now will be in a new degree, 9 degrees of Taurus. This is about this is no longer about anticipating what's coming, but now is about being able to create a sense of happiness within the darkest hours. So just be prepared that the moon, this is really where it's at its darkest, and the moon, and is going to, like I said, is going to sextile Uranus. So there is a sense of, this is actually where the full moon was. This is where the sun was at the full moon in Pisces, 9 degrees Pisces. And so we're going to see some more activity either in the material world, like with the earth changes, or in the there will be some sort of shift, maybe in the financial market, in currency, something like that, because and there'll be a quickening, and we'll have to just, we're going to feel what it is we have to let go of, and that was part of the full moon that we just had. So that will be a representation of that. That will be a reminder of that. We will feel that, but at this point, it's in direct connection to Uranus, because Uranus has moved now to that next degree. And so it will be much more, are we going to be able to not only let go of everything superfluous that we don't need in order to get somewhere, are we going to be able to handle the disruption also in the material world that is inevitably going to occur on some level? And I think we can. And that's the whole thing. If we let go of all of our baggage, moon in Pisces, if we just if we choose not to hold on to what is not ours, but let it go, also be dissolved into the field, then I think we will be able to spur ourselves forward. So it's going to be an interesting, and we'll connect to Venus as well at that same time. You can see here, the moon is going to connect to Venus. So then we'll really, again, it'll be this, there's so much to learn from this week, and there's going to be so many challenges as we continue to start oscillating at just a higher frequency in general. I think there's just been a lot of stuff that is now moving, and it's breaking loose. And by the time we get to the new moon in Pisces, not only will it have broken loose, but it'll be, we're going to have to learn how to get along with each other and each play our role in the coming cycle that is going to be represented a lot by the new moon. And the rest of March is just incredible. So this is just getting us up to speed with who we are and what role we're going to play, because we do need to be intentional if we want to create out and manifest from the field of potential or the wave function that Pisces represents, right? It is the field of consciousness and the collective unconscious that we create from and consolidate into the next cycle. So I want to read, actually, let's go back to, I want to show you this. Okay. This is the Sabian symbol. And for those of you not familiar, the Sabian symbol is basically each degree of the zodiac has a symbol attached to it as well. So it's like a mandala that is expanding out further and further. So each degree has its own symbolism attached to it. Each 10 degrees within a sign has its own symbol or archetype attached to it through the tarot specifically. And then each sign, and then each house, and so on and so forth. So the Sabian symbols each have their own, each degree has its own symbol attached to it. So this is 24 degrees Pisces with the new moon. On a small island surrounded by the vast expanse of the sea, people are seen living in close interaction. And it represents the need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations, right? So you're limited because you're on a deserted island surrounded by the vast ocean of the unconscious. So the need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations in order to concentrate one's energies and to live a centered and fulfilled life. So it's really about everyone eventually comes to realize their oneness within the whole, but it's also learning what your dharma is. And it's just like with Gilligan's Island. Each of those characters is an archetype, and they all play their role within the context of their collective. And you learn to live interdependently with your dharma, but also inseparable from the whole, because you're surrounded by this consciousness. But it's about the consolidation of the collective energy, or the consolidation of these forces into specific subjective experiences that are then expressed in Aries. So this new moon is about learning how to find who we each individually are, what our dharma is, without letting go of our connection to the collective network that we're all part of. And in fact, it is by going into those spaces to be inspired, that Pisces space that is about formlessness and inspiration and dreams and compassion, right? You're going into the world of the mystical. You're going into the realm of divine source. You're connecting to the field of consciousness, the wave function that is the potential, the field of potential of every electron. You go into that space and you become inspired, and then you start to bring that inspiration back into a subjective form. That's what this new moon is going to set the seed for. And right now, everything is dissolving and has been down into this collective field of experience, and we are going to start really learning who we are and what our role is going to be. But we have to allow ourselves to be inspired. It's not going to come from our conscious mind. It has to come from the subconscious realm, which is the work we should have been doing with the moon in Scorpio earlier in the week, and then bringing it through to what we're creating, how we're going to get there. And then by the time we get to Pisces, we can just drop in and go back to source. And that's where we get our inspiration for the new cycle, is not from our minds, but from the divine, from God, however you want to condition that. That's up to you. But that's really what the new moon is. So there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of potential for inspiration this week, just as easily able to be pulled into somebody else's, desert island drama, or to just follow the false light. And And it's important that we all know who we are and why we're here, because that is going to be how we move forward. Is everybody following their dharma and accepting everybody else's dharma as well, and not making any judgments about that either, which is really difficult. I get that. We're all human beings and we're learning every step of the way. So be mindful of the mind. Just be mindful of the propaganda continuing to escalate. I mean, the sun in Pisces in a conjunction with Neptune like that is just prime time for just being pulled into the false light. So be mindful of that, and know that at the same time, you have to be able to let go of everything and be as a child if you want to be truly inspired. It's not going to come specifically from the mind. And I think I think there's going to be quite a few things that happen this week that are going to shake that up enough that we'll have to let go. We'll have to let go of the mind in order to surrender to our dharma and what we're here to actually do, because once we connect to divine source, then we just know at that point, and it's all part of the bigger plan. So yeah, that's the astrology for this week, guys. Thank you so much for being here, being part of this. If you're interested in a reading, astrological, let's do a starseed reading, intuitive reading, or energy work, you can book through catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below. Facebook and Telegram are the social media aspects. If you are interested in connecting there, I put all of the content across all platforms. That's kind of where I link everything. And if you find this content helpful, beneficial, informative, hit that subscribe button. Definitely hit the like button. It helps push the content out through the various algorithms, because that's just, you got to teach the AI what people want to listen to. So that is also really helpful if you're able to do that. And thank you for being here. I hope you had a great weekend. I'll see you all tomorrow on the Daily Medicine transmission, and we will take this week one day at a time. Love you guys. Bye.